Margaret slammed both hands on the table, making the crystal glasses rattle. "You're nothing but a gold digger taking advantage of my son," she yelled, her voice echoing through the dining room. In seconds, our peaceful family dinner turned into a disaster. My name is Olivia. I'm 29 years old, and I sat there watching my mother-in-law of 3 years completely lose control in front of everyone. The Sunday roast I had spent hours preparing sat untouched as Margaret continued her attack. "Mom, please," my husband, James, said, trying to calm her down. But Margaret cut him off with a sharp wave of her hand.
"No.
I've stayed quiet long enough." Suddenly, she grabbed my plate and hurled it across the table. Food scattered everywhere. "I want you out of my house and away from my son."
Now."
My heart was racing, but I kept my expression calm. Over the years, I had learned that reacting only made Margaret feel stronger. Around the table, the rest of the family sat frozen in shock. James's sister Emma, her husband, and Aunt Martha stared silently. "I have proof," Margaret announced as she pulled out her phone. "Those secret meetings. Those long phone calls. I hired someone to follow you." James looked stunned. "You did what?" Margaret shoved the phone toward him. "Look at these pictures. Meeting strange men at Cafe Fizz. Visiting luxury hotels in the middle of the day. She's either cheating or running some kind of scam." I almost laughed. Those meetings had been with real estate agents and financial advisors. For months, I had been quietly investigating suspicious financial activity connected to Margaret's charity foundation, the organization she used to maintain her social status. "Margaret," I said calmly as I stood up, "you should be careful about making accusations." "Are you threatening me?" she snapped. "Not at all," I replied. "I'm simply suggesting you pay more attention to your own affairs." The room fell silent. For a brief moment, I saw something flicker across her face.
Fear.
Then it disappeared, replaced by anger. "Get out," she screamed. I turned to James, hoping he would finally defend me. Instead, he stared down at his plate. "Aren't you going to say anything?" I asked. He hesitated. Maybe you should leave for a while. Just until Mom calms down." Those words hurt more than anything Margaret had said. That was the moment I realized I was completely alone. I picked up my purse and nodded. "Okay, James. If that's what you want." Margaret smiled smugly. "We all know you only married him for his money anyway." I walked toward the door, then stopped. Turning back, I looked directly at her. "You seem very concerned about James's money. Maybe someday we should discuss the Henderson Foundation's finances." The color drained from her face. "What about the foundation?" James asked immediately. "Nothing," Margaret said quickly. "She's just trying to start trouble." I didn't stay to hear more. I walked out into the cool evening air while Margaret continued telling her version of the story inside. She would paint herself as the caring mother protecting her son from a manipulative wife. But she had no idea what was really happening. For months, I had been preparing for this exact moment. Every suspicious transfer, every hidden payment, every missing dollar. I had documented it all. Before I met James, I worked in forensic accounting, a detail Margaret had conveniently forgotten while calling me a gold digger. I climbed into my car and made a phone call. "David?"
"It happened," I said.
She took the bait. "Start the audit tomorrow." David, an old colleague, had been waiting for that call. Margaret's obsession with control had finally trapped her. I drove to a small apartment I had secretly rented months earlier. As Margaret's behavior became more aggressive, I knew eventually I would need a safe place to go. Now I understood why. Her lies were catching up with her, and she needed me gone before I exposed the truth. As I settled into the apartment, my phone buzzed repeatedly. Messages from James.
"Mom is really upset."
"Maybe give her time to cool off." "Where are you staying?" I ignored every message. Let him worry. Let him sit in his mother's house and listen to her stories. The truth would reveal itself soon enough. I walked into my home office and stared at the board covering one wall. A maze of financial records, transfer reports, and notes connected by colored strings. 3 years of observation. 6 months of investigation. Everything had led to this point. Margaret thought she had won. She had no idea what was about to happen. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls. 5 from James, 8 from Margaret, 3 from Emma, 1 from Aunt Martha. I ignored them all. Instead, I made coffee and watched the sunrise from my apartment window. At exactly 9 a.m., my phone rang again. This time it was David. "It's done," he said. "The audit team arrived at the foundation 30 minutes ago. You should have seen Margaret's face when they walked in." I smiled and took a sip of coffee. "Let me guess," I said. "She tried to stop them." David laughed. "She tried. It didn't work. The board members you contacted last night have serious questions about those offshore transfers." He paused. "They're not leaving until they get answers."
Perfect.
Phase 1 was complete. Just then, my phone rang again. It was James. This time, I answered. "Where are you?" he demanded. "Mom is panicking. Auditors are at the foundation, and she says you're responsible." "Am I?" I asked calmly. "Olivia, stop playing games. What's happening?" I took a sip of coffee before answering. "Isn't it normal for a charity organization to go through audits?" "Olivia."
His voice was tense.
"Tell me what's going on." "Maybe you should ask your mother about the Henderson Foundation's financial records," I said. "Or the money that disappeared from the Children's Hospital Fund." Silence. Finally, he spoke. "You're lying." But he didn't sound certain. "Check her office computer," I replied. "The password is your birthday. Look for a folder named Personal Projects. You'll find everything there." Before he could answer, I ended the call. James had spent his entire life avoiding conflict and letting his mother make decisions for him. Now, he would have to face the truth on his own. Around noon, there was a knock at my apartment door. I wasn't surprised when I saw Emma standing outside. She looked exhausted. "I found the documents," she said quietly. I stepped aside and let her in. "The missing hospital funds?" She nodded. "Did you know all along?" "I started suspecting something 6 months ago," I admitted. Emma sat down heavily. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" I met her eyes. "Would you have believed me over your mother?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. After a moment, she shook her head.
"No."
"Probably not." She rubbed her forehead. "My God, Olivia. She stole from sick children." The words seemed difficult for her to say. She used foundation money for shopping trips, vacations, luxury purchases, all while everyone praised her as some generous philanthropist. She swallowed hard. "The hospital wing dedicated to Dad's memory. She used that money to buy the beach house, didn't she?" I nodded. Their father had trusted Margaret with the foundation before he died. He believed she would continue helping people. Instead, she had turned it into her personal bank account. My phone buzzed with a message from David. "Systematic fraud confirmed. 3 years of embezzlement. Board voting to involve authorities. Suspect attempted to destroy records." Too late. I had copies of everything. Emma stared at the floor. "She's going to lose everything, isn't she?" "The foundation. Her reputation. Probably her freedom." Her eyes filled with sadness. Then she looked at me. "And James? What about him? Did you do all this to hurt him too?" I walked toward the window and looked outside.
"No."
My answer came immediately. "I did this because it was the right thing to do." I paused. "Your mother stole money from people who desperately needed help. She hurt children while calling me a gold digger and pretending to be a hero." Emma released a slow breath. "James went to the foundation this morning after the auditors arrived." I turned back toward her. "I've never seen him so angry." "At me?" She shook her head. "At Mom." A small smile touched her lips. He caught her trying to delete files. That was the moment he finally understood. My phone buzzed again. "Margaret." I rejected the call without hesitation. Emma glanced at the screen. "She's been calling everyone all morning. Begging. Threatening. Both. She wants you to stop the audit." I set my phone down. "It's too late for that." "I know." Emma stood up. "The board is meeting tonight. They want the whole family there." Then she hesitated. "Will you come home?" Home. The word felt strange now. That house had stopped feeling like home a long time ago. "Not yet," I said. "James still has some things to figure out." Emma nodded slowly and headed for the door. After she left, I returned to my desk and reviewed the final reports. Margaret had built her entire life on lies, manipulation, and stolen money. Now those lies were collapsing. A few minutes later, another message appeared on my screen. This one was from James.
I'm sorry.
I should have listened to you.
Can we talk?
I stared at the message for several seconds. Then I placed the phone face down. Some conversations could wait. There was still work to finish. Margaret believed she had won the night she threw me out of her house. What she didn't realize was that she had triggered the beginning of her downfall. The next day, the board would decide the future of the foundation. And Margaret would finally learn an important lesson. The people you underestimate are often the ones who change everything. 3 months later, I sat quietly inside a courtroom. The room was silent as Margaret was led away in handcuffs. The judge had shown no mercy. 8 years imprisonment for fraud, embezzlement, and misuse of charitable funds. Margaret's expensive suit and perfectly styled hair could not hide the defeat written across her face. Moments earlier, the judge had delivered his final remarks. The defendant's actions are particularly disturbing. These funds were intended to provide medical care for children in need. For the first time since I had met her, Margaret had nothing to say. No excuses. No manipulation. No control. Just silence. 2 rows behind me sat James. His head was lowered as deputies escorted his mother from the courtroom. And for the first time, he looked like a man finally facing the consequences of believing the wrong person. James hadn't moved back in with his mother after that night. Instead, he did something I never expected. He finally stood up for himself. A month after the truth came out, we met to talk. She controlled me my entire life, he admitted. And I let her because it was easier than fighting back. His voice was heavy with regret. I also let her hurt you because I was too afraid to stop it. I'm sorry, Olivia. I know an apology can't erase what happened, but I'm trying to become a better person. For the first time, I believed he meant it. Meanwhile, the foundation was under new leadership. To everyone's surprise, Emma stepped forward to rebuild what her mother had destroyed. She worked tirelessly to regain the trust of donors and make sure every dollar was used for the people it was meant to help. As people slowly left the courthouse that day, Aunt Martha caught my eye. She had been the first member of the family to reach out after Margaret's crimes were exposed. I always knew that woman was trouble, she had told me over tea one afternoon. The way she treated you was never right. But you, my dear, handled everything with grace. The media couldn't get enough of the story. Headlines appeared everywhere. Prominent philanthropist exposed by daughter-in-law. Charity fraud scandal rocks community. Hospital funds stolen for luxury lifestyle. Margaret's carefully crafted image collapsed as more details became public. The missing hospital funds. The fake charity events. The hidden offshore accounts. Every revelation exposed just how far she had gone to maintain her perfect reputation. Outside the courthouse, James approached me. Can we talk? We walked to a nearby coffee shop and found a quiet table by the window. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Finally, James broke the silence. The house has been sold. I looked up. Mom's beach house too. The money is being returned to the foundation. I nodded. Emma told me she's doing a great job. She really is. James stared into his coffee. I've been seeing a therapist. I raised an eyebrow, trying to understand why I allowed Mom to control me for so long. Why I couldn't stand up for myself. Or for you. And what have you learned? He smiled sadly. That boundaries matter. That being a good son doesn't mean surrendering your life to someone else's control.
He paused.
I know it's too late for us. Neither of us argued with that. But I wanted you to know something. Exposing the truth didn't just stop my mother. He looked directly at me. It freed all of us. I thought about everything that had happened over the last 3 months. The investigations. The courtroom hearings. The endless news stories. The family arguments. In the end, none of it had been about revenge. It had always been about doing what was right. The hospital wing, I said. The one meant to honor your father. A genuine smile appeared on James's face. They're finally building it. With the recovered funds? He nodded. Dad would have been proud. When we left the coffee shop, my phone rang. It was Emma. They found more documents in Mom's storage unit, she said. My stomach tightened. What kind of documents? Records showing she was stealing from Dad's company years before he died. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Are you okay? I finally asked. Emma sighed. Not really, but I will be.
She paused.
Actually, we all will be. Then her voice softened. Thank you, Olivia. You are braver than the rest of us. That evening, I returned to my apartment, my real home. The investigation board that had once covered an entire wall was gone. The evidence boxes had been packed away. Only one thing remained, a framed photograph. It showed James's father standing at the groundbreaking ceremony of his very first hospital project. He looked proud,
Kind.
hopeful, everything Margaret had never been. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from David. Foundation board meeting tomorrow. They'd like your help designing new financial safeguards. I smiled. Life had changed in ways I never imagined. Margaret believed throwing me out would protect her secrets. Instead, it started the chain of events that destroyed every lie she had built her life upon. James and I never found our way back to each other. Some wounds heal. Others leave scars that remind us why we moved on. Still, something good came from everything that happened. The truth came out. Justice was served. And people who truly needed help would finally receive it. As I got ready for bed, another message arrived. This one was from Aunt Martha. You did good, girl. Sometimes doing the right thing costs us more than we ever expected. But it's always worth it in the end. I read the message twice before setting down my phone. Margaret's downfall had cost me my marriage, my comfort, and the life I thought I would have. But it had also given me something far more valuable. Confidence, freedom, and the knowledge that one person can make a difference when they refuse to stay silent. I walked to the mirror and looked at my reflection. For the first time in a very long time, I smiled. Margaret's lies were over. The future was finally honest. Tomorrow, I would help rebuild the foundation and make sure no one could ever abuse it again. But tonight, I allowed myself a moment of peace. Because sometimes being forced out of a house is exactly what leads you home. And at last, I was home,